Welcome everyone to the latest edition of this week's IT Chronicles here with this IT News series. And lo and behold, we start with yet another continuation of the saga Intel, Spectre and Meltdown. The latest paper of the latest security researchers, various universities, Virginia, San Diego, and so on. They see that micro-ops, vulnerability leaking secrets again in Intel and this time also more AMD micro-op caches. So what this means is this is a yet new class as expected. We said this before and it was to be expected. Epic thread-ripping processors, so complex x86 disk, but potentially also ARM, that previously speculative execution leaking fine little bits and bytes and details, and now even micro-op caches. And I have to say the technical low level of those attacks is even stunning for me. This is even more complex. Previously I found already the previous complex rather crazy, that they can steal secrets out of this fine little speculative timing details. And now with the micro-op cache, so what this means is not only purely speculative execution, but even making use of this micro-op cache here, also behind the picture there. I said this before, and welcome everyone. On the main channel, I discussed multiple instruction set architectures from x86, Spark, PowerPC, RISC-V, ARM, because they are a little bit different. And I said so often, x86 one of the most complex, also due to the nature of the variable length from 1 to, I think, 15 or 16 bytes, maybe 15 or 16 bytes per cycle. Yeah, something of 15 or 16 bytes, whatever the current maximum length is. It doesn't matter too much. The problem is also decoding this already performance marginality of why Apple's M1 ARM can do so much better. And because of the limits of vintage x86 variable length and CISC instruction set, processors since the Pentium Pro decodes this internally to micro-ops. Pentium Pro, previous video, and more upcoming. And because, as you see, this is only, I think, so 16 bytes. This decodes, I think, up to 4 or 5 fused micro-ops here. They say here 5. And so from 16 bytes, current CPUs can issue around 5 fused micro-ops per cycle. Fused means they can. This might be fused like multiply add or other fused load store, whatever the case might be of the proprietary internal micro-ops. And because this is relatively expensive, and even this paper mentions somewhere there, maybe we see this in a minute, I just want to give a little bit more in-depth summary for people to understand this internal workings. And because this is relatively low throughput and also relatively power and time consuming, they are cached here in micro-op caches of like 8 ways by 32 sets, or depending on the processor. And the latest vulnerability, and this should be all transparent, right? So on the programmer side, you see the good old-fashioned, actually it could also have good old-fashioned like object dump, only live for object dumping, some like bash or so, and like also not some random data but text. And something of that sort. This is boring. So this is a variable length instruction stuff that I was talking about, like 2 bytes and 4 bytes and 7. And this should be totally transparent, right? The CPU Pentium Pro, or latest and greatest Epic Threadripper, translate that to the internal industry secret, of course, proprietary micro-ops, because RISC and great and stuff, and it should be totally transparent, right? On the surface, this good old-fashioned first Intel IBM PC compatible. And the devil is in the details, and similar to the other timing and attacks, this is again making use of the micro-op cache, and also that the micro-op cache is not necessarily fully flushed, and so on. And also this paper reminded me, I went through this earlier, although this are 14 pages. If you're into this, you probably want to read this anyway, and for the other ones, maybe the top-level summary is enough. So they describe in-depth characterization of the micro-op cache, features in Intel and AMD processors, reverse engineering several undocumented features, including replacement and partitioning. Replacement meaning like least recently used LRU strategies used in these attacks to what kind of micro-ops are flushed there in this 8-way sets by 32, for example. Mechanisms automatically generate exploit code that leaks also, we are not writing exploit code, we are automatically generating exploit code these days. Leveraging micro-op cache as a timing channel, cross SMT, threat attack, and comment on extensibility, existing cache, side channel, and transient execution attack mitigations. Also, to address the vulnerability, they expose and further suggest potential attack detection and defense mechanisms. And also they write here, I said this before, also other people on Twitter, often trollers or things, they know everything better than we do. Of course, I do not know. I'm not working at Intel and AMD. I also have only a healthy top-level overview. But it's so funny that people always troll or pretend to know everything better, because other trolls there on the internet, it's like, modern x86 processors are a risk anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I said previously already on Twitter and previous videos, of course it matters. And this paper here reminds us here, black on white, of that, because they write here somewhere that like x86 decode pipeline, just as I outlined, macro-ops and micro-ops and queues and caches and internal risk, reduced instruction set computing, and they wrote here somewhere, or summarized from other papers, that so the fact that x86 instruction decoding pipeline was shown to consume as much as 28% of an overall processor in the 1995 P6 architecture Pentium Pro, and die shots of more recent processors, including Skylake, indicated that the decoder, so this is just the decoder, right? Just decoding these numbers of 31F6 hex to XOR ESI or move and so on. So just decoding, not executing, not scheduling, not anything of that sort, just freaking decoding. So complex that is. And this is, of course, a complexity. Sure, you also need some logic to decode PowerPC or ARM and RISC-V, but maybe only 8%, not 28%. And this is also where the Apple M1 previous video on the more main channel in that corner goes into more detail. So 28 freaking percent, at least in yesterday decades, and indicates that the decoders and the MS ROM, the ROM microcode ROM for that, continues to consume a significant chunk of the core area. And it's like, wouldn't you want some less complex, more sane architecture like ARM or RISC-V, and have the higher performance and less power? Because this is also power, right? 20, of course, not everything goes directly to power, but some 20, maybe 20% higher power consumption, maybe. In fact, previous papers show that the micro-op cache was first introduced in Intel Sandy Bridge microarchitecture, was shown to provide a hit rate of 80% on average and close to 100% in hotspots. So that means that your x86 code, like here, is on regular programs, because you have jumps and stuff re-executing. Here the micro-op cache up to 80% efficient, and in hot loops like sync multimedia stuff of filling the screen and splitting some text and so on, up to 100% of like inner loop of just some 20 or 50 or whatnot. Anyway, the Details are here in this paper. As usual, they have here various interesting studies and basically reverse engineering of the inner workings, cache size, cache associativity, micro-ops per region, and so on, figuring out how this stuff works internally, nice graphs, nice all the stuff that, like the replacement policies, and then of course examples and study how to use this as a leak information. Also, yeah, how do they do this? They had here a text setup, variant 1, micro-op disclosure primitive, and listing 4 shows here, for example, bound checking, right? A recurring theme here, see we got this, or any other language of bound checking. Input there, like things this is some kernel read-write function or process, kill, create, and all the stuff. So you have bound checking if I equals greater or equal 0 and less than the array size. And so the way this works is calling this a lot with valid input, they write here somewhere, so the victim function performs a bound check on the index, and if the index is within bounds of the public array, it returns a non-secret value of the index forever as described in the Spectre version 1 attack. The bounds check can be bypassed by mistraining the branch predictor such that it is always predicted to land on the inbound path. So that means mistraining meaning calling the 100 or 1,000 times with a valid value, and then the 1,001 times with like, by the way, now I want something out of bounds. And using, of course you don't get, this is not like misexecution, this would be too easy and spotted like decades ago, but simply using timing that and measuring the information leak out of that. So the next step is to set up the micro-op cache value. This is accomplished by repeatedly calling with inbound indices, so the predictor gets sufficiently trained to emit a predicted taken outcome. Maybe even 8 times calling is enough actually, because actually, or maybe even 5 times calling, whatever. Again, the attacker leverages 3 distinct functions, so secret transmission, side channel interference, all the fun details, and of course, like, yeah, overall the attack is 2.6 times faster than the original Spectre version 1 attack, so achievement unlocked. It's faster exploits. Here, proof of concept, PCI driver routine, PCI VPD find tag further automatically generates the appropriate tiger function, side channel interference, and so yeah, variant 2, bypassing Alphans. Alphans is what Intel recommends to synchronize a primitive that forbids younger instructions from being dispatched to execution, and like, yeah, they also can mitigate that because, yeah. Anyway, more details, way more details, leave in the comments below. So yeah, this is like, yeah, that's not going to end soon. I wonder actually how this can be fixed in Silicon. Maybe it's actually better to build less speculative execution processes, rather give us 128 threads without much speculations. Think of GPUs and write software way more threaded. Maybe that is a more secure, if not annoying, way to tackle that. But yeah, the future stays interesting, so probably want to share, like, and subscribe for plenty of more such details to come. So further, after we have that technical detail out of the way, software bug that lets malware bypass macOS security defenses. Isn't it ironic, as much as Apple always like, yeah, use macOS because it is so much more amazing. Apple has spent years to reinforce macOS, also with Gatekeeper and AppStore and stuff, but the newly discovered vulnerability broke through most of the macOS new security protections with a double click of malicious app, a feed not meant to be allowed under Apple's watch. Yeah, Apple 2021, normal developer can't get their stuff to execute, needs to sign with Apple or preferably the App Store, otherwise notarization of bloody apps. But attackers like, yeah, YOLO, whatever, just double click here the thing, right, and Verse evidence shows the notorious family of Mac malware has already been exploiting this vulnerability for months before it was subsequently patched by Apple this week. So hashtag peep bugs there on macOS side if you thought this is super top-notch secure. Yeah, notarization, yada yada, but security researcher said the bug he found in mid-March bypasses those checks and allows the malicious app to run. It's like, yeah, well done, Apple, harassing all the developers, wasting our time. And at the end of the day, YOLO, whatever, bounce check, it's, yeah, or signature. Do we have here more details? Technical block. Vulnerability triggers to logic bug in macOS underlying code. The bug meant macOS was misclassifying certain app bundles and skipping security checks. It's like, yeah, thank you very much. It's like, yeah, no, I wonder what check that was. Gatekeeper. Anyway, in similar news, NVIDIA stuff. Similar, I said it 100 times, binary-only drivers. And why I don't want to have them in my system. And previously, NVIDIA, I think they previously had a web server for whatever, debugging or whatnot, or other information passing, or maybe some overlay, I forgot, some nonsense. Pretty sure there was some kind of web server in there for something. Latest and greatest, of course, security bulletin, NVIDIA GPU display driver. Of course, they are not 100% safe because software. They released software security update, also affecting Linux. Of course, Windows GPU driver, Windows and Linux, contains vulnerability kernel mode layers. Like, yeah, having there some binary blobs from NVIDIA or other such companies in there. It's like, yeah, Windows quality stuff with null pointer dereference may lead to system crash and may lead to denial of service, more denial of service, and the most. And vGPU software contains vulnerability, which is also, by the way, 2021. Yeah, so there are actually a couple of those. If you thought like one's like, yeah, one bug, usually it doesn't come alone. Usually they come with a bunch of friends. And they have some address-based randomization bypass, confidentiality loss, and information disclosure, and so on. Base score 5, 7, nearly 8. And yeah, in case you're wondering why you want multi-server microkernel and preferably no binary blobs in your system. In similar amazing news, Signal people remember maybe in a previous episode, maybe last year, we called out that Cellebrite of all governmental like authoritarian regimes like Belarus, Russia, Venezuela, China, or USA and stuff, or UK, using Cellebrite's services to break into people's phone and stuff. And they also said they hacked Signal, maybe last year or something, some month ago, and Signal trolling them back. So somehow, I think they somehow got hold. Of course, they say here the right place at the Cellebrite time. By truly unbelievable coincidence, they were recently out for a walk when they saw a small package fall off a truck ahead of them. Sure, I think we have some audio for that. So in other words, of course, someone donated that to them or so. I mean, obviously, it's not falling out of trucks that often. On a closer look, the dual enterprise typeface slowly came into focus. Cellebrite. Inside, they found the latest version of Cellebrite software, hardware dongle, and dongle designed to prevent. Also, yeah, how does this stuff look? You subscribe. You are like authoritarian regime, orange president, or other such thoughts. Want to break into other people's phone, or this is what you order for some hundreds, thousands or so of dollars. Some nice specs that come with that, and plug that in with the software. And right, also a funny anecdote. A hardware dongle designed to prevent privacy tells you something about the customers. Yeah, so Signal trolling them back. Nice that we see how this kind of stuff is making circles. Bizarrely, a large number of cable adapters, so not only iPhone, but probably some BlackBerry and other old Nokia shit or who knows what. Anyway, familiar with the software, security will immediately recognize that the primary task of Cellebrite software is to parse untrusted data from a wide variety of formats used by many different apps. So to say the data Cellebrite software needs to extract and display is ultimately generated and controlled by the apps on the device, not the trusted source. So Cellebrite can't make any assumptions about the correctness of the formatted data. So they're talking about like WhatsApp logs or other formatted data that some authoritarian orange government would want to peek into. And so they say almost all of the Cellebrite code exists to pass untrusted input, like logs and stuff, iMessages and Skype and Signal and stuff could be formatted in unexpected ways, exploit memory corruptions, like, yeah, exploiting memory corruption, right, in Cellebrite's governmental backdoor shit. And also, in one example, unrelated to what follows, software bundles FFmpeg, so violating some licenses, probably, right? Software bundles FFmpeg DLLs, also, yeah, not the latest. Also, you for 100,000 euro, you buy the latest spy shit, and what do you get? Outdated FFmpeg DLL from dated 2012 with 9 years of security vulnerabilities and missing features. Obviously not interested in the latest and greatest video codecs, apparently updated since then. So 100 security updates at the time, none of which has been applied. Yeah, forensic software from not experts. They exploit, so given the number of opportunities present, they found that it's possible to execute arbitrary code on the Cellebrite machine simply by including a specialized formatted but otherwise innocuous file in any app on the device that is subsequently plugged into the Cellebrite and scanned. Virtually no limits on the code that can be executed. So like, yeah, reverse code execution and Cellebrite's amazing stuff, for example, including a special formatted, but otherwise also Cellebrite execute modified. Anyway, and any app could contain such a file, and until Cellebrite is able to accurately repair all vulnerabilities in their bloody freaking shit software with extreme high confidence, the only remedy a Cellebrite user has is not scan devices. Cellebrite could reduce the risk of their use. Also, by the way, I think they included also a copyright installed contains 2 bundled MSI installer packages named Apple Application Support 64 MSI and Mobile Support, digitally signed by Apple, and appears to have been extracted from the Windows installer. So yeah, not only violating GPL licenses, but throwing some stolen Apple libraries in there for good measure, obviously to connect to iPhones and stuff. So what they are saying here is that in completely unrated laws, and not only trolling them back and forth and so on, but in completely unrated laws, upcoming versions of Signal will be periodically fetching files, files that probably are nicely formatted. These files are never used for anything inside Signal and never interact with Signal software data, but they look nice and aesthetically are important, and aesthetics are important in software, as seen here regularly on this channel. These files will only be returned for accounts that have been active installs for some time already, and only probabilistically in low percentage based on phone number sharding. They have a few different versions of those files we think are aesthetically pleasing and will iterate through them slowly over time. There is no other significance of those files. In other words, if you didn't get that joke, they are probably planning to randomly store some files exploiting the Cellebrite vulnerability and break their data interception for authoritarian regimes like Belarus, Russia, Venezuela, China, USA, UK, and Myanmar, and stuff like that. In similar news, Google Chrome hit with another mysterious zero-day attack. Tuesday saw so much to Google's efforts of Project Zero and stuff, and writing stuff in C and C++. Chrome browser, the fourth in the wild Chrome zero-day discovered so far in 2021. So yeah, it's a state of software recurring theme documenting here that Fourth, and we have only you have 1 quarter, so 25% of 2021 for in the wild Chrome 0 day. Continued something new, Chrome update available for all platforms. Rolled out, obviously, vulnerabilities being exploited is identified as CVE 2021-21-22-4 and simply described as a type confusion. Chrome V8 rendering engine, previous video. Type confusing meaning using usually floating point nonce, not a number, and storing everything as 64-bit floating point double, also pointers, compressed pointers, other types, numbers, booleans, and using special not a number encoding to signal that. And type confusing is usually like, yeah, there was some logic bug in there, because obviously after some decade or so of Chrome V8 there still is. Yeah, set state of JavaScript. Similar JavaScript developer left in the dark after DroidScript software shut down by Google over ad fraud allegations. Isn't it fun, this AppStore stuff of like, yeah, nice app you have there, but now we should shut it down because, yeah, I think apparently they said here somewhere. So yeah, Google App Store, alleged ad fraud, found on non-profit DroidScript, something. His appeal, also, yeah, working with big companies, right, too big to fail, but their appeals have been answered by form letters, and now the app, form letters, and now the app used by more than 100,000 developers, including students, teachers, and professionals, is losing premium subscribers as well as ad revenue, with no further explanation from Google. Recurring theme here, and why I don't particularly support this big tech, because they only maximize their bean counting and usually not the user experience or otherwise. Yeah, it's in general a really shady business of wanting everything from the users but never being reachable and stuff. And not-for-profit organization rely on their AdMob and subscription income, and so, yeah, your whole income is switched there, plugged, and sudden suspension with potential loss of over 7 years worth of Play Store ratings and over 500 premium subscriptions, devastating blow to the community. And Google Play team email arrived with no specific details about the supposed infractions. Hearn observed, believe Cindy was probably a bot, and it's like, yeah, probably nobody at Google is even answering that anymore. Yeah, in similar news, Apple is just another nail in the coffin of the App Store. Is super secure for the user. 64 billion a year App Store isn't catching the most the biggest scams. One-man Bruno squad is poking holes in the App Store image. Recurring theme, just another level of documentation. I mentioned this previously, and yeah, 500. Also, yeah, can't figure out how to cancel that 520-year subscription. The app often stops recording after just a handful of seconds. Yet somehow it's got 4.5 star rating in the App Store. Fake reviews clearly have something to do with that. It's like, yeah, no real downside. Best at home. No equipment needed. And yeah, people and developers still documenting that what a security scam the App Store is, and why I, for many years already, started the YouTube channel to shed light on this. Also, this, to summarize this here weekly, otherwise, it's like, yeah, and Apple is not stopping that, even though developers complain, stuff is copied. But yeah, in similar news, the EU Commission found Apple on guilty in App Store rules for music streaming providers. This is only first step. Phase up to some 10% of global revenue in damages, some billion potentially. EU Commission has informed Apple of the preliminary view that it distorted competition in the music streaming market, abused the dominant position for the distribution of music streaming apps through the App Store, with mandatory use of Apple's own in-app purchase mechanism imposed on music streaming app developers to distribute app via Apple's App Store. Rules to all music streaming apps which compete with Apple's music streaming app, Apple Music, and initiated by Spotify. Spotify, I think Spotify. Yeah, Spotify. And of course, only the first step, and this is only music streaming apps. There might be more App Store antitrust stuff coming in the US and the EU. And I said this before, as a developer, I never was the most abused about giving Apple 30%. In similar news, have you taken a look at the iPad Pro? Previous videos there on the main channel. I have some reservations for these devices anyway, but have you taken a look how much it costs to fix them? iPad Pro to fix out of warranty service fee, like this is like basically any repair. They don't even further like does it even still have a headphone, like port replacement and button replacement or whatnot. Although maybe mostly people break the display if they don't drop it in the toilet, although this might be a little bit difficult with an iPad. Maybe the swimming pool or open ocean might be more suitable for water damage, liquid damage of this stuff. But this price is applied to repairs, including screen repairs. So yeah, freaking screen repair, right? For a freaking iPad Pro, Liquid XDR, whatever, previous video there. It's like, $699 plus probably taxes, because this is usually a US listing without taxes. So plus local taxes and VAT and stuff. $699 for a freaking display. Also for a previous generations you save $50, and for a slightly smaller also 50 or 100 second gens, like thank you very much. The smaller the thing, you save maybe $202. What is the latest of anything else of that sort? And otherwise it's like iPad mini $299 for a freaking display. And otherwise do they also, this probably iPhone somewhere else. Yeah, ridiculous prices. I said this with the Surface. Surface is the same thing, right? Glued together, not a fan, previous video. And in general, not recommending such devices anymore. In general, I don't find this to compute very much anyway, very limiting for my creativity. Hackers target ransomware, so cybersecurity of the week. Hackers target iconic Japanese Toshiba rival Hoya. Probably, I don't know why. Those headlines are always funny. Probably they only include the Toshiba that people know what they talk about, because if you just write hackers target iconic Japanese Hoya, they probably like, who? They attack who? Who is that single person at home or something? But yeah, Toshiba's rival, putting this into perspective, probably. Apparently the hacking group has stolen 300 gigabyte of data, and recurring theme, if stuff is not top-notch security, and we need to take all this IT stuff here more seriously. Recurring theme here, weekly shout out and documentation. This has real-life consequences. Schools, courthouses, hospitals, universities, nuclear enrichment facilities, and similar stuff. Group of hackers executed recurrently a ransomware attack, making a second successful attack. Oh, by the way, Apple was attacked, right? Maybe I should have included that, but it was already another week. Apple ransomware schematics. So the stuff that Louis Rossmann needs and should be, do we have here? They, of course, have not hacked Apple directly, but like Quanta or something, ransomware group attempted to extort 50 million from Apple, has pulled down previously leaked schematics and removed all the references. So not sure if someone paid there or threatened to sue them. They They say they had stolen Quanta documents revealing details upcoming Apple Watch, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro models, and leaks the documents if Apple didn't pay 50 million ransom. Isn't that nice thing? And they found also that the upcoming MacBook Pro might include an SD card slot, again HDMI slot, and MagSafe charger. Maybe so. I said this before, and given this leaks, you probably want to wait for your M2 powered Mac Pro with restoring SD card slot and HDMI and MagSafe and stuff, maybe. In similar news, MI5 wants spies using LinkedIn. So yeah, 2021, not your email phishing, not your ransomware, not your Intel and Spectre micro-op cache leaks, but spies using LinkedIn to trick stuff into spilling secrets. Of course, the usual social engineering, listing there, creating, maybe I also should actually create a fake profile there of NSA, MI, whatever, 5 and stuff, and befriend people there and so on. Malicious profiles of using an industrial scale security agency's chief said campaign has been launched to educate government workers about the threat and recognize, realize, report, remove. But yeah, did not specify, named LinkedIn. But BBC News has learned the Microsoft-owned service is indeed a platform involved. 10,000 plus figure includes stuff in virtually every government department, as well as key industries who might be offering speaking or business and travel opportunities that could lead to attempts to recruit them and provide confidential information, in case you're wondering what LinkedIn is used for. In similar news, Postal Service is running covert operation program that monitors American social media posts. Isn't that a crazy thing? Stuff usually, why can't I zoom? Oh no, I can zoom. Stuff usually is a story of former East German GDR, stuff of Postal Service running covert operation of monitoring East German citizens there. Until the late 80s. This is a new hotness in the latest and greatest big data stuff in the Western world. Law enforcement's arm of the US Postal Service has quietly running a program that tracks and collects American social media posts, including those about planned protests, according to a document. Oh, by the way, this is muted, not that we have some bloody audio playing. Social media posts, including those planned protests, according to a document. Is that not a nice thing? The free Western world, what we have become in just a decade or two. Really disgusting. And 1984-ish. Analysts with the United States Postal Inspection Service. Also leave in the comments below what you think of this stuff. Do you find this normal, or do we get here into a Chinese counter-communist personal credit, social credit score? Regarding planned protests, international and domestically, 15 government bulletins marked law enforcement sensitive, distributed throughout the Department of Homeland Security's fusion centers. Location and times have been identified for those protests. Yada yada yada, something. Includes screenshot of posts about protests from Facebook, Parler, Telegram, and other social media sites mentioned by name, including the alleged Proud Boy, several others identified, something. Anyway, last but not least, in similar post news and even more matching to our reporting here, justice at last, convictions of 39 postal workers in the UK squashed. And so what happened? Britain's appeal court has overturned the convictions for theft, fraud and false accounting of 39, not one, not three, but 39 freaking UK postal workers. So what happened is that some algorithm, if I understood this correctly, so some monitoring, also, yeah, this is the point of this stuff, right? Monitoring software in universities, at workplaces, and in general, US Postal Service and society. Amazing stuff. Ruling that reversed one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in Britain's legal history. 39 people who run local post offices have their convictions for theft, fraud, and false accounting overturned Friday because of what an appeal court said was clear evidence of bugs, errors, or defects in an IT system. Yeah, 2021, or actually the previous years already, 39 people get convicted for theft, fraud, and false accounting due to bugs, errors, and then we're not even starting here of social bias and people of color and stuff, but yeah, years of long, complex legal battle. Britain's post office faced huge compensation bills for its failure following the installation from 1990. Yeah, not even a new thing, right? How long is it? 1999. Turned out to be defective Horizon computerized accounting system in local branches. Dozens of staffers were convicted after the Fujitsu supplied system pointed to an array of financial misdemeanors that bewildered the postal workers. 6 others have their convictions quashed previously, while other 700 or so workers are to believe to have been prosecuted between, so like, yeah, not 3, not 7, but maybe 700 in total of workers believed to be prosecuted between 2000 and 2014. But clear that those convictions have had their lives and livelihoods ruined beyond the prison sentences, and some of them received. And yeah, amazing stuff, software bugs, and not only in processes and software ransomware, but even freaking justice system and people going to prison. So not only cars crashing, self-driving cars, right, amazing stuff, but even Horizon accounting software of Fujitsu fair, like, yeah, can't even do Fujitsu accounting software anymore. That's basically everything I captured this week. As always, I hope you learned something. Leave in the comments below if what of the stuff was useful. If you have any of those tips, always leave in the comments below. It's not even everything, right? This is only the tip of the iceberg. I didn't even bother to save half of them because it usually gets too long. So yeah, if you are interested in this stuff, weekly summary, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Also, actually, subscribe probably is there. Membership and Patreon stuff, and otherwise we do here low-level IT stuff. So welcome everyone. Let's take a quick look. JroidScript micro-op cache couldn't have it's Deadmops decode, pre-execute something, Snoop, steal, but probably. Can you give me your WhatsApp number? No, I can't. You can share, like, and subscribe though. Needs to call a plumber to clean pipelines. Where a car would have been recalled, maybe. Maybe we can all get 7 nanometer new silicon for old chips. Only cables, Batman. I don't quite think a recall will happen. This is too hard to exploit, and it's like, yeah, I think the ship has long sailed. It's not as clear as fdiff bug or similar of such stuff of clearly producing a wrong number, and it also affects the whole industry. So this time also AMD is affected, and previously Spectre and Meltdown also ARM and PowerPC, if not Spark and others, are also at times affected with some of this. So yeah, it's an industry-wide thing, and similar to other sorts here, my main channel, rethinking UI, graphical user interfaces and usability, previous live stream, and also microkernel stuff. Starting with C, but also other stuff, we do way too much stuff wrong in computer science, in information technology, which also leads to this humongous amount of bugs left and right and basically everywhere. People write, isn't Google amazing? $700 repair. Gotta use the right amount of Rothman. Might go back to the fiber channel optical interface. It could be waterproof. FBI website. It's vulnerability to cross-site scripting. Says hello friend. Didn't the NSA was hacking into Exchange servers to apply patches to later systems who didn't fix it themselves? Fun time. Court order to do that. The big right that happened in West Germany too. Yeah, that could be. Actually, I think I recently indeed maybe saw something. So yeah, if you have comments and stuff, always leave them below. And if you have any other news tips during the week, leave them in comments or Discord, or just email them to me. Except they can't photo ID the capital images in like 5 minutes. So yeah, exactly. Want to say that, or they don't want to say that they can only have heard of 2 of those. Too big of a problem, couldn't.